Brynhandar, everyone. Welcome on this really rainy afternoon to our
Mrs. Watkins to help today.
And you won't be able to see her, but in the background we've also got Mrs. Everself, love drawing. That's no secret, I think, in school, and I think any children that have been through our classes will know that too. But we're not experts. Just like you, we just enjoy it. And the children that come through our classes, what we try to help them to do is to realise drawing, just like anything else, is a skill. Now, you wouldn't go tomorrow and decide you were going to sign up and be playing for Liverpool Football Club. You'd have to learn the skills. And that's what we're going to show you this afternoon, is some of those skills, but the most important today is having fun. There's no right or wrong. Every single person's picture will be different, and that is great. Now, you can see we've got marker pens to draw with, so we can't rub out. So if we make a mistake, it doesn't matter. If you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. All right? What you can do is practice and practice again, and you'll get better at those skills. We're going to start this afternoon with a little warm-up, because just like in maths where you use your magic stick, or in literacy where you might find how many adjectives you can get in 1 minute as a class, you can warm up in art and you can get ready for those skills. So we're going to have a go. So you need your paper, and I'm going to show you, I've got my paper in something called portrait. My paper is a rectangle, which means I've got 2 long sides and 2 short sides. My short sides are at the top and the bottom, and my long sides are down the edges if my paper is in portrait. So you need to make sure now, if you've got a piece of paper that's a rectangle, like mine, that it's in portrait to start. Now, I like drawing with my piece of paper on the table, but we've got our paper upright today, so hopefully all will go well. And if it doesn't matter, because we're here to enjoy ourselves. So we're going to start with a little story, and I want you to draw along as we draw along on the stage. We won't go too fast, and unlike Rob, you can't pause us. We're here this afternoon, but we will stop and give you a chance to catch up if you're getting a little bit behind. So you can take a marker pen, a Sharpie, a pencil, it really doesn't matter. Get it ready to start, but before we even touch our pen to our piece of paper, we're just going to check we know where the middle is. So with your other hand, touch the middle of your piece of paper. Okay, And now I want you to take your finger up to the top of your piece of paper. Make sure you know where the top is. Back to the middle, down to the bottom, back to the middle, to one edge, back to the middle, and to the other edge. So if I say to you we're going to start in the middle, we're not going to start up here in the corner. We're going to go in the middle of our piece of paper. If we want our shape to fill the page, we're going to touch those edges that we just touched with it. But if we want it to be in the middle, we're going to leave space around it. And we're going to start our story now. Once upon a time, just like a good story should start, there was a man. So we're going to draw in the center of our page, we're going to draw a circle for the man's head. Now this man loved going out for a walk. There's not a lot else to do at the moment, is there? So going out for a walk is a great thing to do. So this man liked to go out for a walk. Whenever he went out for a walk, he put his hands behind his back like this. So we don't want any hands on our man today. We want the body, and we want 2 legs. So yours should look something like that now. If your head's a bit bigger or a bit smaller, it doesn't matter. It's absolutely fine. The man had a dog, and one day he was out in the countryside with his dog, having a lovely walk, looking around to see what he could see, when all of a sudden, a great swarm of bees the man's head. The bees on one side of his head.
Does it matter where they are?
It doesn't, as long as they're at the side of his head.
Okay.
You can make little spots, you could even just do some dots
Do some
there.
dots. Okay, I'll try some dots on this side.
If you want lots and lots of bees buzzing around his head. We've still got some space down the side, that's really important, okay. So our man is out walking with his dog when all of a sudden, along come these bees buzzing around his head. He's back running away, but the bees just start to follow him, and all of a sudden he spots a pond. Now he knows that insects do not like getting wet. Bees like to hide away when there's rain. So the man thinks quickly, he's very
good.
And he jumps into the pond. Now we still want to leave a bit of space on the edges. And it doesn't matter if it's not a complete circle. Look at mine. It went down here and then it came back in.
I know there's lots of children who worry about drawing circles.
Oh,
They say, I can't do mine like yours. We've both got completely different
Completely
circles.
different. And do you know what? Today is all about shapes. And we're going to show you today that just by learning to draw shapes, you can draw pictures. And if you were doing any picture, if you were an artist and you were outside drawing things, you would be looking at the shapes that you could see. And it doesn't matter if your shape isn't quite the same.
Perfect.
I don't know about you, Mrs. Lewis, but I know that in the classroom, if my children do a piece of artwork and they go, whose is the best, Mrs. Watkins, which would you like best? It's impossible to choose.
Impossible, especially in the Eisteddfod as well.
And
Oh my goodness.
And in the Eisteddfod, if we laid your pictures out on the floor and different teachers came in to pick first place, every single teacher would pick a different picture.
one, yes, it's absolutely impossible.
It is, because some people like dark lines, some people like faint, more detailed lines. Everybody looks for something different, so your artwork is fantastic just the way that it is. Well, the man is lying in the pond, soaking wet, feeling a little bit sorry for himself now, and he stops and has a look around. And for the first time, he notices that behind the pond, so we're going on top now, behind the pond is a huge mountain. Oh, I've never noticed it before. Big mountain. And when he looks more closely, inside, or in that mountain, are 2 large caves. They're almost like, well, not quite half a circle, because they're a bit taller, but yours could be half a circle. It doesn't matter. Again, it's your picture. And then he looks even more closely because he's decided he's going to sit in the pond. He's a bit fed up. He wants to look around him. And he notices that over the entrance to the cave are 2 huge rocks. And those rocks are really dark. So perhaps you could just shape them in, either with your pencil, or if you've got a colour and you want to change it, you could use a colour.
Colour the whole of the rock.
You can colour the whole, you can colour half if you think there's a bit of light peeking through. This is the bit where it absolutely doesn't matter if yours looks different to mine. None of them are going to look exactly the same. Well, let's have a look, Mrs. Lewis.
So I'm trying to stay inside the lines.
And sometimes you can cross Crosshatch, we call it. You shade one way, shade the other way, and you don't have to worry too much about colouring inside. Sometimes you could be more precise, like Mrs. Lewis. She's got lots of care with her eyes. Now the man's feeling much better. He's realised that nature is really lovely around him, and his dog runs up to him and he thinks, right, do you know what? We've had a lovely day. We're going to go home and dry up, and then we're going to cook ourselves some breakfast. And his dog is really partial. That means he really likes a sausage. And so the man, starting here at the top of the mountain, cooks one sausage, it curves in, curves back out for himself, vegetarian sausages for Mrs. Evans. And he decides that he will cook one for his dog. Now, hopefully, on your pieces of paper now, you will have something that looks a bit like a dog. Now, there's also things you could do here. If you wanted to, you could colour in his nose, and I'm going to do that thing I told you about before, where I just shade one way, and I just shade the other way, just to give it a bit of detail. You don't have to. You could decide, I want to give him some eyebrows. And you might even decide, right, he's such a lovely dog, I'm going to give him his own collar. You could colour that in, you could decorate him, you could give him eyelashes or her eyelashes. I learned to draw this dog, I think, when I was in primary school, just like you, and I have drawn it lots of times since, and every time it's different. And every time it's got a different characteristic. So you can practice this dog at home. I love Mrs. Lewis's collar, and it's got a little square on that collar, and I've got a circle on mine. They never look exactly the same. Mrs. Lewis has got a little cross on his nose, and I'm sure Mrs. Evans is beautiful too. So everybody should be warmed up.
I love that warm-up. I think I prefer that to some of my PE warm-ups. Maybe we could do it when we do PE again, but jump around at the same time.
And you can see that your dogs will look different every time. There's one I did at home, and that's one my daughter did, and they all look different. Now, what we'd like you to do today is have fun and enjoy yourself. But if you would like to share, because we always love to see your pictures, if you would like to share your pictures with us, that is fantastic. Your teachers would love to see them. So, of course, you can put them on Class Dojos, you can put them on Seesaw, you can put them in Google Classroom. But I know that Mr. Mansfield has been very excited. He's been very excited all afternoon getting ready for this. And I know that he's in his office drawing the dog as we speak.
I think we should get him to bring it in.
I think so. And I think that he would love to see all your entries too. So if you do want to send them into school, then you just need to send them into office@stjuliansprimary.com. And I'll remind you of that afterwards. Now, we're all warmed up and we're all ready to carry on. So I'm going to show you two things this afternoon. One is a picture that we're going to start, but you can finish in your own time. It's a bit like a jigsaw. Don't normally get a big jigsaw out and finish it all in one go. You have to come back to it and come back to it and come back to it. And then the second thing that we're going to do will be a proper draw along, a bit like draw along with Rob, but it's a draw along for Mrs. Watkins and Mrs. Lewis this afternoon. We're going to end up with a cartoon character, hopefully. So what I would like you to do is to take a new bit of paper or turn your piece of paper over. And this time, I want you to have your piece of paper in landscape. So that's portrait, where the short edge is at the top and the bottom. Now we want the short edges on the side. It doesn't really matter, but it's easier for this picture because we're going to do a picture that you might like to put in your bedroom. You might want to do it for a grandma or granddad and give it away. You might want to do it for a room in your house that needs a new piece of artwork. So this is your chance to be a real artist. And who knows, one day some of you might be book illustrators, or you might be a house designer. What other jobs could we have in art? What else could we do? There's so many jobs that need you to have really great drawing skills.
Be a fashion designer.
Fashion designer, that's a good one. I always wanted to be a fashion designer. I think I've got books full of people with clothes, different clothes on. Yes. So what we're going to do with our landscape is we're going to do something called take your pen or your pencil for a walk. The great thing about this is that every single picture should be different. and it absolutely doesn't matter. Now, lots of times when we do this, we start straight off and we go for a walk. But today we're going to do a border, and we're going to give our picture a frame. Now, these pictures, you could choose the colours of your bedroom, so they could go up on your bedroom wall. You could choose your grandma or your granddad's favourite colours and make them a picture that you could send to them if you haven't been able to see them recently. That's another nice one to do. But there's no right or wrong here. If you like bright colours, go bright. If you like really subtle, pastel-y colours, do that. But we're going to start by putting a border around the edge, but rather than just try and draw a free line, which is quite difficult.
It is really difficult.
Especially when they underline their work without a ruler. We notice that, don't we? So I'm not going to squash around the corners. I'm going to start here. I'm going to do a curl. And I'm just trying to stay as close as I can.
This makes me think of the bees flying around and anything I've seen, the little trail behind them and having a little flip in the
That's
air.
a really good idea.
Now I've put a line on mine because Mrs. Lewis's page is still portrait, so I've, as you said there, mine's a very wiggly line, so I'm quite glad. So I'm going to pretend mine's a bee. I'm going to take it for.
So boys and girls, mums and dads, grandmas and granddads, I think we've got lots of people joining in. If you want to have a go now, you can have a go at putting your border on, and that's the first part of taking your pen or your pencil for a walk. Remember, it is a walk. We don't want to go for a run on this. You might run off the side of your page, or you might slip. So take your pencil for a walk. Oops. And there we go. Mrs. Lewis has got hers. Some lovely curls, Mrs. Lewis's. And straight away, your picture looks more interesting already than if you just took your pencil for a walk. Now, we are going to take our pens for another walk now, and we do want to make our lines. We don't want to make them too small, because if they're too small, you've got to colour it all in at the end. You might want to start up in the corner, and you might want to come right through the middle and do a big curl, and you might go in that direction. It's a bit like PE, this. You change direction. If you want to stop on a line, and start somewhere else. This is one of those that you don't have to keep going right till the end. So you can stop wherever you want, and then if you think, oh, there's a really big bit here, you could cut back through that bit. And if you want to put a few more loops on, and the great thing about this is that you can add these lines as you go along. So you can start colouring in your picture, and if you decide, oh, that space is too big there, you can draw your line afterwards and join it on.
So I'm just choosing, once I finish one, I'm just choosing somewhere to start from my frame. Bit of a back flip. Bit like a roller coaster. You could actually have your pen on a roller coaster. It could be on a walk, but you could also take your pen on a roller coaster.
And it absolutely doesn't matter what it looks like. Every time you do this, your picture's going to look different. This picture here, I've got lots of shapes inside it. So by now, you should have taken your pen or your pencil for a walk. And if you want to add to it afterwards, that's fine. I did one of these on the weekend, and I came back each day and added a little bit more. And then I started colouring it in, but it was really like a jigsaw puzzle. I had to keep going away, I had to go and cook some tea.
Come back to
I had to go and do a bit of schoolwork with my daughter, and then I had to come back again. Now, what you're going to do now is you're going to colour it in, and you've got to make a choice here. You could decide that you are going to use some coloured pencils, okay? Or you might decide that you are going to use some felt. If you've got lots of different things at home, you could even get some metallic markers. They're always, in the classroom, they're always top choice.
They are literally gold dust, though.
They are. Your picture can be coloured in however you like. You might decide you're going to do patterns inside the shapes. But a really great thing you could do is use more than one type of material. So you might decide, right, I'm going to colour in first in blue. And I'm going to shade, I'm going to shade this one here. Now, if I was at home, I would take a little bit longer to do this to make sure that I stayed right inside the lines and that my shading was really even. But I'm just going to do one box for you to have a look at, and then you're going to have a little go at colouring in some of your sections that you've drawn this afternoon. So I'm just going to show that really quickly in blue, just to show you that now if I decided I wanted to add some texture over the top, I could take my metallic marker, or I could take my sharpener. I'm going to use a, let's have a look, dark pink, like a cerise colour.
I
And
know
in the Sharpies, they're really amazing colours, aren't they? So if
They
you've got
are.
Sharpies, that's brilliant. But I did say to the children the other day when we did a lesson, please make sure you're leaning on something other than just the dining room table
your
or your
Sharpies.
bed or
Yes.
your sofa. Please put something underneath because we wouldn't want you to have your pencil going for a walk.
And that's
your
a
best
really good.
furniture.
So I'm just going to put some little V's on mine. And I'm just going to do lines of little V's. They almost look like little hearts, but they are just V shapes. You could do U shapes, you could do dots, you could do circles, you could do lines. And straight away it changes how that bit looked. Now we're going to give you 5 minutes just with some music on to colour some of your picture. You won't finish it, and you can keep this and you can carry on, and when you have finished it, then we'd love to see your finished work. And remember, you can do these as many times as you like for as many different people, for gifts and presents, for your own artwork, for your walls, and inside clip frames, they look wonderful. Just clear clip frames, you can pop those up on your walls, but remember to ask permission to do that first. So Mrs. Lewis and myself are going to colour for just 5 minutes.
You'll make sure you tell me Mrs. Watkins when we're moving on.
I will.
Zone into this now.
And you can use some of your, if you've got metallic or felts, you could actually colour some parts straight in with those, even if you've got other parts coloured in with pencil. So colouring away, boys and girls.
So could we put just a pattern inside one of these shapes, Mrs. Watkins?
You
If
could.
wanted to, instead of colouring the whole thing, could I just put a pattern
You
inside?
can, the other good thing to do is to leave some of these sections white. Because you can actually leave sections white, that just adds to the texture of it. The good thing about this, there is no right or wrong. This is your picture. You do exactly what you want. Now, I loved art in school, but I'm not an expert. But if I didn't practice and I didn't learn new skills, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I put some lines in that word.
I think the children would say lots of how can you do that? Mrs. Lewis? I say, well, I'm older than you and I've practiced lots more than you. And I know my other children say as well, how can you do that? I say to them, well, I used to sit down for a long time because we didn't have iPads and things like that. Well, they're that old, but we definitely didn't. And we used to visit my grandma quite a lot, and she lived quite far away. And they didn't have hardly anything then with the TV, and we used to have the videotapes, and we were lucky that my grandkid finished watching the TV. So we used to take our colouring pens, everything, and we became quite particular, very, very, very fussy over our colouring, because that was all we had to do. And we used to be in competition to see whether my nan would painted my nan would stick inside her wardrobe. And I remember when we were helping her to move house back down to Wales, she still had her pictures in her wardrobe, and she said she never ever did the competition. She just pretended to put her favourite at the time, and then she stuck everybody's everywhere. I remember sitting there thinking, oh, I want to be my brother and sister are going to the competition.
And that's how much grandparents and relatives love your art.
They do, they like it.
They do.
You might
And
think it's not very good, but mums, dads, or
that's it.
grandparents, they really do love it. So.
And it's in the classroom when children say, oh, mine's not very good. They look at somebody else's and they say, oh, theirs is fantastic. And then you look at theirs and you see how brilliantly they've done when they've actually followed the lesson, practiced the skills, and they're very often surprised that they can produce the work that they can. So you might take a class of children who think they can't do it, by the end of it they all say, well, I couldn't do it at the start, but I can do it
I
now.
call that one the, oh yeah moment.
And
And that quite a lot
I
in
know.
maths in a classroom. So Tom, I want you to get that moment and go, oh.
Now, boys and girls, if you're little and you're having a little bit of trouble staying inside the lines, it doesn't matter. Practice makes you get better at this. So you can keep practicing. I know that for me, it's a little bit harder drawing standing up. I quite like a table and sitting down. I don't know about your board, but my board's wobbling a
Mine's
little bit. get some spots on this one. Right, we're just going to do 2 more minutes, boys and girls, or maybe even just 1 minute. And then when I say it's time to stop, we're just going to finish for now. You can go back to this later, we can go back to this tomorrow, we can go back to it next week. Doesn't really matter.
And again, I think your teachers would definitely love to see your final pieces towards the end of the week, or even when you usually do your catch-up meet, and you'll do a catch-up meet in year 6. We would love to see this as well as your home learning.
I think this is the thing with this. Don't feel you have to finish these today. Even the last one that we do, if you want to take longer on the colouring in, that's fine. If you've got a busy week and you want to do it on the weekend and finish it on Saturday or Sunday, when you haven't got lots of other things to do, that's okay as well. Art's about enjoyment, so have a go. Step away from it when you're ready for a rest or your arm's aching a little bit. Okay, so boys and girls, if you just finish the section that you are in, and then pop your tops on your pens, put your pencils down. It's going to give you a couple of seconds to do that. Turn the music off now. Hopefully that music helped you relax a little bit. And you can see Mrs. Lewis has got fantastic hearts in hers and larger circles that all join together. And I really love the one, when I did this the other day, I was thinking they often look like balloons, don't they, when the lines cross over. I think if I put some new lines on that, I could almost have a fish here in mine. Now, this is my Blue Peter moment. I've waited for this,
I love this
for a very long time. Here's one I did earlier.
I wish I brought you a badge. I just wanted to be
So, this is one that I did finish. Now I don't know whether it goes that way up. I don't know whether it goes that way up. But I chose these colours because my daughter's bedroom has got lots of greys in it and lilacs. And I thought that would be really nice in a clip frame. Maybe she would like it. She was doing her own. She may prefer her own to mine. However, that's what you hope to end up with, something like that. So you've got some white bits with patterns on. You've got some coloured bits that haven't got any pattern on. You've got some bits that are just patterns, like these. It doesn't matter. And every time you do it, it's going to be different. And every time you choose your colours, you might choose different colours. So I'm going to put my one I made earlier away. And boys and girls, what I would like you to do now is just give your arms a bit of a shake. Give your fingers a bit of a wiggle. Give your shoulders a bit of a roll. You need to do that when you're concentrating for a long time, especially when you're drawing. Now I'm going to take mine down, and we're going to get our last piece of paper. Now, if you haven't got another piece of paper, you could turn this piece of paper over. You could go back to your first piece of paper. I think I'm going to take mine home for later. I think. There we go. It might fall down. Have a go. Yes. It's going to fall down. And I'm going to just take this, because my piece of paper's got a few holes in it from drawing that. And we're going to get a new clean piece of paper. And this time we are back in portrait. So that means your short sides are at the top and the bottom, and your long sides are down the side. And I just want you to remind yourself of where the middle of that piece of paper is. That's going to be really important in our draw along, because we're going to start somewhere around the centre. And we are going to draw this afternoon. Mrs. Lewis, are you ready for it? Yeah. A cartoon.
Should we do a drum roll then?
Do a drum roll with your feet. A cartoon tiger.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Because I found that of all the draw-alongs we do, they do love an animal. Definitely. All right. Now, lots of you have watched lots of draw-along with Rob. This is not a draw-along with Rob. Okay, Rob hasn't done this. This is a draw-along with Mrs. Watkins and Mrs. Lewis. Okay, so hopefully nobody out there has actually done this draw-along before. And it's going to turn out the way that it turns out. Remember, everybody's going to be different. I'm hoping drawing on this paper, it's as easy to do as it is flat. We will find out, and that I don't forget any of the stages. So we're going to do them. I'm going to pause, because you can't pause me. I'm going to pause every now and again, so if you need to catch up, you can. If you've got your other picture by the side of you and you're waiting for somebody, you could always colour in another section if you wanted to. Multitasking. So we're going to draw a tiger this afternoon, a cartoon tiger. And I sent a message out on Dojo's earlier that if you had a orange and possibly a pink and maybe a black or a brown ready, then great, but you don't need them. When I did this with my daughter on the weekend, she didn't want to colour hers in, and I think that happens in class a lot. when the second part is, now it's time to colour it in, some children will say, but I really
like it.
my picture as it is. I like my black and white picture as it is. That's fine. So if you haven't got colours, it doesn't matter, okay? But if you've got colours, great, you might want to have a go at colouring this in this afternoon. And our draw along tiger is all going to be made of shapes. So some of those shapes we've used in the dog, and some of those shapes we've used, we might be using those again now. So we're going to start with the tiger's face, and we're going to start in the middle of our paper, and we're going to draw an oval. Now, I'm not going to touch the paper yet. I'm just going to mark out where I want my oval to go. And an oval is like a squashed circle, isn't it? We don't want it squashed that way. We want it squashed sideways. So I'll draw it first, and then you have a go at drawing. So we don't want to touch the sides. We want to be about here in the centre of our paper. And we're going to start by just drawing an oval. Now, the next bit is probably the trickiest bit. Once we've got it, everything after that is easy. So from our oval, we are going to draw two lines coming down. And I always do this when I'm drawing. I practice it with my fingers first. So we're not going to draw it touching our oval. We're going to just drop down under our tiger's face. And we're going to make them go out slightly, like a wonky ladder that's wider at the bottom. So watch as I draw the first line. I'm going to come about here. And I'm going to make my line come down.
Oh, I like what you did there. You put the dot first, so you can start.
Yeah, it's a really good way. And then if it's in the wrong place, you can move it and just think you've got a spotty tiger. And then I'm going to come over to the other side. So it's not quite at the edge. And it's just down a little bit from his face. And I'm going to make that one come out sideways as well. So they've got a little bit of a curve on my lines. Now, the one that I drew on the weekend had really big curved legs. So if yours has got bigger curves, that's fine. You're going to have a little bit of a plumper tiger, but that's okay. So the next thing we're going to do is two more of these ovals, but a bit smaller and joined onto the bottom of his legs. But we don't want them to touch. So just watch. We're going to put our first oval on here. And we're going to do exactly the same on the other leg. And once again, it doesn't matter if your ovals are slightly different sizes. I've got a larger one and a smaller paw here, I think. Me too. That's absolutely fine. Boys and girls, try this later with your paper upwards. It's a little bit more difficult. Okay, the next thing that you need to do is join this leg to this leg. And I want you to watch. We're going to go the other side of his leg. We're going to come back up, but only a little way. We don't want to come all the way up. A little arc, and join it back onto his other leg. Okay, well done. And now we are going to bring his body. So we're going to bring his body just to the side. And we're going to come out from his face this time, actually out from his face. And we're going to make it arc round and finish where his leg joins his foot. So you can make your tiger as skinny or as plump as you like here. And you just
tiger's legs
do exactly the same on the other side. I think one of mine is too. And that's okay?
That's okay.
That's absolutely fine. I've done this lots of times, and sometimes my tiger's quite skinny, and sometimes my tiger's quite plump. Now, his body's not quite joined because we've got a little gap here. So what we need to do is just join up. Imagine that line comes along. Don't draw it through the feet, and then just curve it so it goes back up to the other side of his body. Now, it's beginning to look a little bit more like a tiger, but it still doesn't look very much like a tiger. So what we're going to do now is put his back feet on. So we've got his front paws. We're going to put his back feet, and all they do is curve out and straighten it in. It's almost like half a bell on his feet. On the other side, curve out and curve back in. And again, it doesn't matter if yours are not exactly like mine. You just curve over and straight edge in. Now we're going to put his back legs, because he's got back feet with back paws, but he doesn't have any back legs. Now we want to come about, I would say about halfway down our body, and we're going to make it curve. It looks a little bit like he's got some ears attached to the side of his body for this bit. So we're going to curve over, and we're going to make it join just where his back foot
Now
is.
I can see.
And now you can see it looks a little bit like a leg. And we're going to do exactly the same on the other side of his
It's a
body.
little bit like one half of a love heart.
Yes, one half of a love heart. See, every time you look at a picture, you see a different shape, and that helps you. Now I'm going to try and make sure it's roughly in line. Boys and girls, believe me, this is much easier if he's sitting down. And I'm going to draw his other leg. Now he's got 2 back legs and 2 paws, and 2 front legs and 2 paws. I'm just going to give you a moment just to make sure you're at that stage. Now remember, Mrs. Lewis and Mrs. Watkins cannot row out. So whatever we do is what we've done, and that's
So we're okay with
fine.
it.
We're okay. I still think at the moment it looks quite like a frog, because this is the bottom of his face. We haven't got his head. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put his head on. And his head doesn't come right from the sides, it comes just a tiny bit in. And it's like an arc going from one side of his face to the other. Now you could make it really high, you could have a very big head, or you could make it a bit flatter. I'm going to go up, over, and join it back on. Reminds me a bit of the pond and the mountain now. The man in the pond and the mountain at the beginning. So it's a little bit like that. So now we've got the body of him. We're going to make it to start and look a little bit more like a tiger. The first thing we're going to do is put some claws on his feet. And these are like the letter C and then the letter C backwards. You need 2 on each foot, but only on his front feet. And sometimes I like to go over a line if I want that feature to stand out. So I might add to that line. So now he's got some claws. He also needs, what's that thing joined to the end of the tiger at the back called? Really long and stripy. That's it, it's a tail. We need a tail. So we're going to take our pen, almost like our pencil for a walk now. So that's why we're using all the skills we've learned so far. We're going to do it here, and we're going to do it just above his leg. I'm going to come up a little bit. I'm going to take my pencil for a walk, and then I'm going to follow the line back down to get his tail. So just watch for a moment. I'm going to curve. Now this could be any way you want, really, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take my pen back in, I'm going to follow my line, and I'm going to make it join onto my body. Now your tail might be a bit longer than mine, it might be a bit shorter, however you do it is absolutely fine. So now our tiger's got his claws, he's got his tail, he needs some ears. And his ears go on either side of his head, and just like the shape we made for his head, you need to make that shape again on either side of his head. And once you've drawn it, just go a little way inside and follow the line that you did first time to make a second arc.
Like a rainbow.
A bit like a rainbow. I still, as I was drawing this, thought, oh, I think it still looks a bit like a monkey. Bear with us.
Like a monkey.
Bear with us, it will look like a tiger.
I can't wait
So,
to do the stripe.
Now we need another oval inside his face. So we're going to give him an oval here. Not quite as round as when we drew our man, more of an oval shape, more of a stretched shape for his nose. But this time, when you do your body and your legs, like we did with the man, we're going to curve them a little bit because he's going to be a happy tiger. So you're just going to curve them, follow the line down, and give your man his little legs again. And then, give him a turn. Just a little curve underneath to give him a little turn. No, he doesn't have any eyes. So we're going to use more ovals, just as it's an oval day, and we're going to give him ovals going the other way now, so tall with eyes, and they kind of come in line with the end of his ear, and they're just little ovals. Now you can colour them in however you want. You can leave them plain and you can colour them in later.
Little mini eggs.
That's it. When my daughter did it, she just coloured them halfway up to give him his eyes some expression. I'm going to colour mine all in for you to see today. That's fine. And there's one more thing on the tiger's face that we're missing before we put his stripes on. What are we missing on his face? I wonder if you can think of what cats have got coming out of the side of their cheeks. Okay, we need some whiskers. Now we need 3 whiskers, okay, 3 on each side. Now they don't touch his nose, they come out of his cheek, just like your cats. If you've got cats at home, go and have a look. They don't come out of their nose, they come out of their cheeks. And you can curve them, you can make them straight. This is your tiger. Just try not to get into this bit here because you're going to put some stripes on afterwards. I'm just going to have 1, 2, 3 stripes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do mine fast as well. It's quite nice.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
Slightly curved one on that side. So now we've got our tiger, but he still doesn't look like a tiger, and that's because he hasn't got his stripes. So we're going to put stripes on our tiger. We're going to start at the top, and we're going to use, I suppose it looks a little bit like a V shape, okay? But I'm going to curve them slightly, and I'm going to do 4 going across his head, and I'm just going to curve it in slightly, and then I'm just going to colour it in. Now this would be black on a tiger. Mine's got brown because I've got a brown marker here. If you've got a pencil, you just colour it in now, or you can leave it and colour it in at the end. And I'm going to have another one, and then I'm going to make them go the other way, so they curve slightly the other way, or it doesn't actually matter. I'm going to keep them going this way, and you might find it easier for them to all go the same way. And they really do look like upside down V shapes. You can make them curve a little bit, but he starts now to look like a tiger straight away. The stripes on the tiger really help. We're going to do these on the side of his face too. And we're going to have one coming in. So I've just curved it slightly, but it's still like a V. And if you just want to do a V, if that's easier for you, just do a V. And we're going to put 2 on the other side as well. V going in. There you go, and I did that one really quick. So you can see it doesn't really matter what they look like. So our tiger has got his stripes on his face. He still doesn't have any stripes on his body. How are you doing, Mrs. Lewis?
Oh, I love him.
Oh, he's really cute. Well done. Now I've got 2, but you can have 1. And I've seen lots of them. No, you don't have to. I've seen lots of them with 1. So if you've got room, if you've done a really big head on yours, you may have more stripes going up the side of his face. That's absolutely fine. Now I'm going to start putting stripes on his tail next. And they're the easiest because they're just bars going across his tail. I want maybe about 4 or 5. I want to leave a gap between them, and I want them to be quite wide. Okay, now I'm going to shade them in as I go along so you can see which ones would be brown or black on your tiger and what sort of gaps you need to leave. And it depends how long you did your tail here. So if you've got a really long tail, you're going to have lots of stripes on your tiger's tail, and that's fine. The one thing you've got to remember is the very tip of the tiger's tail needs to be orange, so don't colour the top part in black or brown. So when you get towards the top, you might decide that's the point at which you're going to stop drawing your stripes. Now I've got 4, but I really need to put 1 more on there. So I'm going to put quite a wide one at the top. And then I'm going to leave my tiger's stripy tail like that. I think they're starting to look more like tigers now.
Definitely. I was worried about mine looking like a monkey. But
when I first drew it, I thought it looked a bit like a monkey, but that just shows you how you build up using shapes. Now we've got the stripes on the face, we've got the stripes on the tail, and remember, don't worry about colouring it in now because you can colour it in later. We're going to put the stripes on his legs first. Now they're not on his body, they're on his legs, and exactly the same. We're going to use those V shapes, and we're going to come down the tiger's legs, perhaps getting a little bit wider as we get to the bottom of the tiger. But it really doesn't matter. There's no rule to how your stripes go on. And depending on how big it is, if you're drawing a really small one, you may only get 4 stripes on here, which is absolutely fine. But if you did a really big tiger, like we've done today, you'll probably fit 5 stripes down the tiger's body.
They look a bit like sharp teeth to me.
They do. And don't forget, boys and girls, this is about having fun. And we know that if you're having fun, you don't always want to send everything in, but your teachers do really love seeing these pictures. So you can send it in however it's easier for you. If that's Class Dojos, if that is on Google Classroom, if that's on Seesaw, or if you want to send it to the office at St Julian's Primary.com, then we can have all your pictures and make a lovely gallery of pictures, which would be really lovely for everybody to see everybody else's, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
So just keep,
Got something going on here. Everything on this side is big, and everything on the other side is smaller. Never mind. Make the stripes bigger over here, actually.
and just like us, you may well have a side that's bigger than the other and stripes that are longer than the other, and that's absolutely fine. So we've now got stripes in his head, stripes in his tail, and stripes in his body. And there's one more place that we are going to put stripes, and that is going to be on his 2 back legs. I'm just going to wait for Mrs. Lewis and you at home.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So this helps me realise when the children are able to draw him in.
This
He's got a
one
lot of
is-
personality. He looks lovely, your tiger. It's got a very curly tail as well. I like that. Okay, and we're going to put some stripes on his leg. Now, because he's sitting down, he's going to have 2 stripes at the top that are going one way, and then all of the other stripes. We're going to see if we can do this now. So we're going to put the very first one on at the top, and we're going to curve it so it curves down. Now, if yours doesn't, and it's just a triangle shape, it's absolutely fine. Just have a go at curving up and over, like a lid, really. And then when you do the next stripe, you're going to curve the other way, so as if you're going to meet that point. And what that does is makes your tiger's legs look as if they're almost 3-dimensional when you finish it, because it'll look like they're curving. And then underneath these 2 big stripes, you just need 2 more, and they're going to get a bit smaller. And you can stand back and have a look at it and change them a little bit if you need to. We're going to do exactly the same on the other side. Now, don't worry if this side doesn't look exactly like that. We found this afternoon that our 2 sides look a little bit different. So we're going to make that curve that's almost like an umbrella that goes over the top, at the very top of the leg. And then we're going to have a curve that comes in underneath ugly, and then 2 more. And hopefully, we have got some tigers up here. Okay, Mrs. Lewis, you've certainly got a lovely tiger. It reminds me of Tigger off Winnie the Pooh. That
That's
tiger,
the
maybe
first time
baby
I've done that.
Tigger.
I'm quite proud of myself, so
Well,
thank you.
I'm
Your
proud of
instructions
you
were
too.
fantastic.
Mrs. Evans over there. You can't see Mrs. Evans. Did you get a tiger, Mrs. Evans? Oh, Mrs. Evans has got a beautiful
I
tiger.
need to see Mrs. Evans' tiger. She's the real
We're going to bring it in.
Oh, yeah, well, this is okay. Pencil's my favourite.
See if we can get that on the camera so you can see Mrs. Evans, especially if you're in Mrs. Evans' class. I know you'd love to see that. And that's got so much expression, and especially, now that's what my daughter did. She just loved it so much in black and white, and I love yours, Mrs. Evans, that I wouldn't colour that in, because that's beautiful.
I love his paws.
They are really good. Boys and girls, if you do want to colour them in, you could use a pink to just do. Now, I'm not going to be colouring in, because it would take me a while to colour this great big tiger all the way over. But I'm just going to show you that his ears could be pink. They don't have to be, but the insides of ears, I'm just doing that thing called cross-hatching again, which just shades it in really quickly. I am going to really quickly colour in his tongue. And I'm going to colour his nose in that pink colour as well. Now, you might not want to use the pink colour, You may choose a different colour here, and that's absolutely fine. But there are a couple of areas that need to stay white if you are going to colour him in. And that is his paws. We don't colour his paws in.
No.
And we don't colour his face part. We colour his head, but we don't colour his face part. So we're going to colour in a lot of him. These stripy areas here.
Okay.
Now you could start colouring in, but you will probably want to finish this afterwards because it's going to take you a little while. I'm just going to show you where you can colour in. Colour in all of his top part of his face. That's all going to go in orange. And if you don't have an orange, you could use a yellow, you could use a brown. It doesn't really matter. We're going to leave his face. We're going to colour in all of his body. So this is quite a big job if you've got a picture this big. Okay, so both sides of his body there are going to be orange. All of his body here. And all of his body here. Now, if those of you who've done a draw along with Rob, this is the bit where they say, we'll speed the video up and you take your time. We haven't got one of those buttons, unfortunately, that speeds us up at this bit. And that bit of him underneath there is also orange. So hopefully, just from me going over the top there, you can see which parts you're going to colour in orange. But in true Blue Peter style, once again, here's when I did earlier. I have done this a few times. And there's one that's coloured in orange.
He's so lovely.
He had a bit of, you know, that was my first one. He had a bit of a squished face. But he's quite cute. But
Very
you can
cute.
see, if you colour these bits in properly and you leave your tiger's
I like
paws
the paws.
white and you leave your tiger's face white, then suddenly it doesn't look like a monkey anymore, Mrs. Lewis. It looks like a tiger. You can give him a name. Give your tigers a name, maybe
Oh,
even.
yes, I was thinking that with the dog. Gave
And
him
do you
a
know what
name,
artists
fab.
do? They sign their name underneath. So before you send your picture in, I'd like to write your name underneath. You never know, one day. So we're going to leave you now, and we're going to let you colour in your beautiful tigers, and hopefully we'll be able to see lots and lots of examples of those. And remember, you don't have to finish it today, and you don't have to send it in today. You can finish them as and when this week, and we would love to see them. Mrs. Lewis, have you enjoyed
Sorry, I
yourself?
wish I should have stopped.
Mrs. Lewis, you see, is doing what the
enjoyed
children in
myself.
class
Thank
do.
you very much. I'm really grateful you invited me along.
I'm so glad you
First time I've
He's
ever
got
drawn a
so much
Oh, I
personality.
just love it.
He's absolutely beautiful. See, Mrs. Lewis has got a red tongue. Mrs. Evans's is a black and white picture. Mine isn't finished, like yours, but we hope you've enjoyed it. It's been lovely. This is probably one of my most favourite things to do.
Really relaxing. Thanks to
Aw.
everybody for joining us, if you have, and anybody at home joining in with you. And we hope if you haven't had anyone around to help you, you can just follow along with us as well. I think you've explained it so brilliantly.
Thank you. I hope, and you can play this back, and you could do the pause in then, couldn't you? If you play it back, if you want to draw it later, or if you haven't had a chance to join us live and you're joining us afterwards, you can pause this as many times as you want. But we really hope you've enjoyed that you've relaxed a bit this afternoon. And everybody, I'm sure there are some amazing pictures, and I'm sure that there are some mums and dads who've done some amazing
Yeah, we'd
pictures.
love to see those too. So
Mrs. Lewis, I was going to say that in our year group, very often when we do an art activity, we get more than one picture sent in because we get our children and their mums or dads, and it is so lovely to see. It really is. So thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed this afternoon, and maybe we can join you again sometime soon.
definitely looking forward to seeing your pictures.
Can't wait.
Well done, everyone.
Thank you, Diane.